Alexei Navalny overtakes Putin as Russia's most mentioned politician on social media. This could actually do something. Navalny really laid it all on the line releasing that documentary on Putin's multi-billion-dollar castle grift after returning to the country after getting fucking poisoned. Godspeed to the Russian people. You can watch the documentary here. I just don't get why he returned. Like, I feel another country would have let him stay for what he has exposed regardless. And him being locked up does show the lengths Putin will go through, but he was also one of the few to expose as much as he did, and a lot of countries would most likely protect him for this. Either return and try to change something or stay abroad and become meaningless. His life has been at stake since before he was poisoned. This way offers him and his family more safety, hide in plain sight. He is in his home country fighting for them. If he stayed out of the country he could very well go the Snowden route. And just be forgotten about or spun in any direction, mainly because he is not running or hiding out. He is standing tall in front of his whole country, and not backing down. Now the Russian government would have a lot more work to do to spin the event of him having an accident even more so because the people know he is running. Sometimes standing up to the huge bully pays off. I think he is a great guy, and history will remember him for this incredible will and strength. To face your own near certain death, torture, incarceration, constant up for what you believe in is a great feat. We shouldn't make out like he was stupid for making the decision, but rather incredibly brave. We need more people like him in this world. This Navalny's return was strategic. He knew full well he would get on legal trouble. And he had the plan to release that documentary. It's like Navalny plays chess and Putin plays checkers. He is 2 steps ahead at all time. The biggest thing to come out of Navalny's work is not the corruption, but how simple-minded it is. Shuffle some money around. Put things in other people's names. Kill and beat up people when they get too close. Ask some of your goons to go poison some panties. Putin is actually almost comically inept. But like Trump, if you're comically inept but manage to acquire a lot of money for one reason or another, and shout from the rooftops about how much of a clever mastermind you are, there are enough simple-minded people who will accept your story. Turns out an average sort of brainless, small-time thug in the right place can make himself appear like a mastermind. Enough people are just willing to accept it. Like putting a monkey in a lab coat, giving it some fake PhDs, and pretending it's smart. Very true, good take. Putin started grifting as a kid with his goon buddies. This is just an adult, but still simple, version of that. His corruption only works because everyone else in the government agrees with it. It's so blatant and unchaining. Putin is actually almost comically inept. The man that rose himself from the bottom of the KGB to the ruler of Russia, laughing my ass off. The man that rose himself from the bottom of the KGB to the ruler of Russia. Not true. Watch Alexei Navalny's exposure of Putin. He never really was really spy as you would imagine, neither did he start from the bottom, and then after diplomatic postings he was given government jobs that allowed him to get to know more thugs and steal a lot. He was quite literally handed the position of president. He was a typical half-competent goon, if you will, that was at the right place at the right time. So? If there are 1,000 thugs knifing each other for a spot, the one that manages to survive isn't magically John Wick. He's just the dude that got stabbed less in the mayhem, and that's more chance than anything. People love attaching special significance to the outcome of situations where serendipity and chance rule the result more than any other factor. There are different levels of toxins for different purposes. Recently in the headlines, Russia was suspected of using microwave weapons to sicken CIA agents and diplomats around the world. They've been testing that out since the Cold War, and it's damn near impossible to prove. That's for when you don't want to leave a trail. Using a poison or radioactive agent that leads directly back to the Kremlin is a purposeful act to send a message. Now the next move would be to discredit him or divide opinion on him. Making Castro's beard fall out with a toxin was another CIA plot designed to damage his image. Blackmail could also be used to damage his image. You can make someone appear insane. Look at the MKUltra scientists and subjects unwittingly dosed with LSD. Sonic weapons that can be projected into a neighboring hotel room can make someone hear voices or irritating noises. If you think this sounds fantastical, here's a link to the untraceable heart attack gun developed in the 1950s and being displayed before Congress in the 70s. I used to sift through the giant cache of MKUltra documents released through FOIA, and the shit they could do in the late 50s was terrifying enough. But my guess would be to fuck with his mental health, which doesn't require a toxin obviously, attempt to blackmail him or damage his image, etc. Both the US and Russia have had plans to develop more powerful types of weapons, but we don't know how many of these came to fruition or not. What we do know is both sides are claiming to be researching the topics again. Direct quote from the Kremlin in an interview with Putin back in 2012. The development of weaponry based on new physics principles, direct energy weapons, geophysical weapons, wave energy weapons, genetic weapons, psychotronic weapons, etc. is part of the state arms procurement program for 2011 to 2020. We will draft the proposals for the next program by December 2012. Now both sides always make bold claims and panic the other side into playing catch up just in case they're behind. So take everything with a grain of salt. But they could at the very least make you chronically ill without a trace. He's also probably safer in a Russian prison because if he ends up dead it's completely obvious what happened. And the people of Russia will flip their lid. If he died abroad the Russian government could defer blame to several other sources even if most people would call bullshit. The real strength of tyrants is their ability to make people fear them. It is essential to the tyrant for people to believe that defiance is futile, because the tyrant is all-powerful. Showing backup makes the tyrant look weaker, which the tyrant hates. It shows the tyrant is not all-powerful, which leads to more defiance, which makes the tyrant look weaker, which leads to more defiance. Now the tyrant has a real problem. Everyone is paying attention to Navalny. If the tyrant executes him, they risk making him a martyr. Defiance will increase, and the tyrant looks weaker. So if they don't kill him, do they just tolerate him and his public criticisms? But public criticisms make the tyrant look weaker, which leads to more defiance. Navalny knows exactly what he's doing. Technically there are several ways out of this for Putin, but they all involve reducing his power base. He could clean up a lot of corruption, which will make the people happier and grow the economy. But a lot of his power base are corrupt law enforcement and government officials. If he can somehow grow their economy and raise the overall standard of living, he could probably just ignore Navalny and say, see? He's just a crybaby. If Putin can't make some of these big deals he has been pushing happen, I think he's in trouble. He needs gas pipelines to Europe and petroleum exploration to go through, because he needs the economic growth. If those fall through, and the country continues in a downward spiral, and Navalny is still out there, it will be interesting to see how this plays out, but I think Putin will probably fail at economic growth, and won't clean up corruption. That leaves violent crackdowns as his option. But if his corrupt cronies lose faith in him, then he could be in real trouble. Alternately, if he passes away, not wishing ill on him, for the record, you could see a really violent shakeup. Look at the events of the USSR after the death of Stalin for a reference. Yes, thank you for that. There is definitely a lot of details I am missing and one of my best friends is Russian. She says a lot of this is shocking to her and her family, though my friend lives in Canada now. There is so much information that clearly even the world is not known. Great summary. He decided that the future of a democratic Russia is worth more than one man's life. Plus, I think Putin was hoping he'd be afraid enough and stay out of the country where he can lose relevance more and more every day. He's kind of backed the Russian government into a corner with what he's done here. It's genius. I've spent some time thinking about this as well. My best guess, because no matter what, he and his family would always be in danger. In Germany, in UK, in the US, we've seen time and again Russia carrying out assassinations in other countries, years later, targeting children and relatives, etc. So even if he didn't return, he'd never gave a quiet life, and neither would his family. At the same time, Putin would win, in a way, because he'd brand Navalny as a loser who made up all the stories and ran away. One more fake news, easy to cover up. But with Navalny's return, he accomplished multiple things. In some strange way he's safer in Russia in prison than elsewhere, because the world is watching. Not that he's safe, mind you. Just not really worse than elsewhere. And the fact that he released his video about the Putin's palace after his return, really made a statement. He's not hiding in Germany, asking people to rush their lives by taking to the streets. He put himself in danger and showed that he really truly cares about the future of Russia, more than about his life. Now that is rare, and that's what gets the message spread and people out on the streets. Thanks for watching till the end.